Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Bakes here, and thank you for joining me for my first random horror review back for 2026. Normally, by this point in the year, I'm actually not doing any random horror reviews because January is so busy doing my recap of the year prior and putting together a top 10 list. And, for those people who are excited for my normal January schedule, that is still coming. But I'm going to be away early January, like even when you're watching this video, I am going to be away on a holiday. So I thought I might as well pre-record at least something and have it in my back pocket just in case the schedule goes off the rails compared to what it normally is. At least I have something as like a safety net. First episode back for 2026 for the random horror reviews. And the first review that we're doing for 2026 is the Rabid remake from 2019, directed by the Soska sisters. First of all, I'll say the Soska sisters have definitely had a drop-off over time. I feel like, unfortunately, they're kind of a pair of directors that fell under like being a novelty. You know, these twin sisters who have got like this horror vibe and aesthetic about them. And as I said, I feel like it was more so a novelty. Don't get me wrong, they have done pretty decent films over their time, but I feel like majority of them have been more miss than hit, and the consistency has sort of been lacking, and hence the drop off, I guess. They got onto my radar with their movie American Mary, and I still fucking love that movie regardless of who directed it. I genuinely think it's a very, very strong film, and a movie I love coming back to. It's been a while, actually. I should watch American Mary again soon, but my favourite movie of theirs. But it's sort of a shame that the Soska sisters have not carried on with too much consistency and things like that. But moving on from that point, as I said, actually the Rabid remake, and with that being said, I've actually never seen the original Rabid film either, obviously directed by David Cronenberg. Just honestly, it's a blind spot in my movie watching, just never have gotten around to checking out Rabid. So in a weird way, it was actually kind of nice because even though I can't say, okay, this remake does this aspect differently or changes it up here and things like that because I haven't seen the original, it's nice to be able to do this review without needing to make the comparisons. I'm just reviewing this movie for what it is. So I guess we'll get into that, but as usual, I'll start off with the plot for this movie. So we have our main character, Rose, who is a clothing designer, or at least trying to get up the ranks as a clothing designer. And at the start of the movie, she's sort of just down on her luck, things aren't working well, and the cherry on top, she actually ends up having an accident where her face gets mutilated. It's a very, very full-on accident, and she ends up going in for this like experimental new treatment, and it starts off going pretty well. It heals her face pretty well, and things are going okay for her at first, but then some side effects start to occur. It goes into some body horror territory and some cannibalism, and I'm not going to spell out the whole film for you, but a new strain of rabies starts taking over as well, and I'm just going to leave it there for the plot. I guess I'm sure you've got the gist of it. Let's get into my thoughts of the 2019 Soska sister remake of Rabid. So getting into Rabid, this is a movie that I had seen once before, so this was a second time watch. The last time I saw this movie was a long time ago, so really needed to kind of refamiliarize myself with it. I remember going into it the first time. It's actually crazy that it's the second time watching. Again, I still haven't got around to watching the original, but I remembered going into it the first time and hearing a lot of people say, oh, the Rabid remake is like really bad, like prepare yourself kind of thing, and it not really being as bad as what a lot of people made it out to be. Not a perfect movie or anything like that, but just not the bottom of the barrel that a lot of people were kind of, saying it was. But going into it this time, honestly, I feel like my rating on it has probably dropped, and, a lot more of the faults had stood out. With that being said, the movie's still fine, it's watchable and things like that, but, as I said, definitely a lot more faults stood out to me this time compared to the first. But again, it was such a long time, since the first time I seen this movie, so I really don't know. But getting into my opinions on it from this time, I feel like this movie is just trying to do way too much and doesn't seem to like want to pick a lane or pick a direction that it's going in. It's doing like this whole body horror thing, and I love body horror. It's like one of my favorite subgenres, so I'm vibing with that. And then it goes into like this cannibal territory where she's like drinking blood, and she's a vegetarian but starts eating meat. And those two sort of subgenres go well together. So again, I'm still vibing with it, but I'm like, okay, what direction is this movie going in? And then it starts to go into like a more large scale global outbreak thing where you've got like these people catching this strain of rabies, and it's like kind of like 28 Days Later vibe, World War Z, with these running zombies and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, kind of like the Crazies even. And I'm like, okay, now we're going with this. And then it like starts going into like creature feature territory. Like, as I said, it just feels like it's not really picking a lane, picking a clear direction, and it does seem like very overwhelming. And then on top of that, you've also got a lot of like signature Soska Sisters typical artistic style and sequences, like dream sequences with like a lot of like people glitching around and artistic styles and things like that. And again, I don't have problems with that. That can work. But just adding that on top, it's harder to sort of get a grip of what's going on when the movie's already going in so many different directions and not picking a lane. Just adding those small sequences that, you know, to be fair, sometimes aren't for everybody, it becomes sort of jarring. And it's like, okay, and I wouldn't call this movie confusing or anything like that. It's just a lot, and it feels very overwhelming, and it's just like, there is a clear direction there. As I said, if it stayed with the body horror and, yeah, sure, throw in the cannibalism, and again, I haven't seen the original movie to know how different it is from that, but it's almost just like pick a path, because it's got a lot of the fundamentals there. It's got some really solid gore, creature effects. They're definitely some of the main highlights for this movie. You know, I don't have anything with like low budget filmmaking and things like that, but I feel like there's some like really shoddy acting in this movie, and you know, again, with the ambitious story that they're going for, it does stand out a little bit more. Yeah, for me, honestly, it's mainly the story and the amount that just doesn't seem cohesive and sort of running together, and that's sort of the main fault for this movie. What else? As a WWE fan, actually, it was cool to see CM Punk and AJ Lee in this movie. If you're not a WWE fan, you're going to be like, what does this fucking matter? But seeing CM Punk and AJ Lee, real life married couple as well, in this movie, I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. I didn't remember them being in it. But I mean, shit, I feel like I've already covered pretty much everything I want to say about this movie, so we'll keep it short and sharp, I guess. So Rabid from 2019, as I said, it wasn't a movie that blew me away the first time I checked it out, but coming back to rewatch it, I definitely feel like my opinion on this one has dropped over time, and like I said, I definitely need to get around to watching the original. But for a score out of 10, I'm going to give Rabid from 2019 going to give it a 6 out of 10. Like, I feel like that is just about right there. Like, I feel like it's above average, you know, especially when, as I said, you take into factor the highlights like the gore and the effects. And as I said, if it just managed to pick a path and stick with it, sure, I think we could have a better movie on our hands. But for what it is, I just think there's too much going on, and they just needed to find a flow of something that's a little bit more focused. And like I said again, I can't compare it to the original because I haven't seen the original, but then again, Cronenberg has always been pretty confusing with his movies and jumping all over the place, but I think he might just be doing a cleaner version of it, I'm guessing, because he's a better director, in my opinion, than the Soska Sisters, and I feel like most people would agree. But I'm going to leave it there for today's review, guys. I plan to pre-record a few more random horror reviews and sprinkle them through January. But like I said, if you're used to the normal content that I'm dropping in January, so like my top 10 favorite horror movies of the year, top 10 most anticipated, also music top 10s and things like that, you know, recapping what we got in 2025, still expect that content to come. As I said, I'm just keeping these in my back pocket just in case things go south and I'm like, okay, shit, I just need to get something out. You at least have some reviews. So thank you for joining me for today's review, guys. If you have your opinion on the Soska Sisters version of Rabid, let me know in the comments below, guys, and I'll see you for another video soon. Peace.